Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Refine and Shine podcast. I'm super excited. I've been talking to my guests for a little bit, but oh, I can't wait to dive into this conversation. My guest today is Behdad Jamshidi. We're going to call him Bay for the rest of the show. He started CJam, the Marketing Connector, after realizing that most companies don't know how to evaluate the value of a marketing agency or assess their own needs. Since every business is different, not only in their needs, but where they are at in the growth process, it isn't a one size fits all. In fact, in the past 7 years, Bay has met with and assessed over 1,071 marketing agencies and vetted them down a lean 100 plus preferred partners all across marketing niches. After pairing hundreds of businesses with the right partners, he found his skill set lies in the matchmaking process, featured in MarketWatch, Bloomberg, National Post, and the Financial Post. Bay's unique background in marketing, engineering, consulting, leadership, sales, and strategy has allowed him to serve as the conduit between business owners and the marketing teams that they need. Thank you, Behdad Bay, for being my guest today.
Thanks for having me. And I go by B, so no worries.
Oh, B.
Yeah, we'll do that from moving forward.
Sorry.
All good.
It's all good. I actually, I appreciate you. I loved our conversation before we started to hit record, but I'm super interested in how you got to working, your past was engineering, and what made you decide to go into marketing? Tell us a little bit about your background.
Yeah. So I started out as an engineer. So I used to work for a company very similar to Verizon, but up in Canada, it was called TELUS. And I worked with a lot of mid-sized businesses at the time. So I was working with businesses anywhere from about 50 to 1,000 type employee range, understanding what's going on from the C-level perspective, IT perspective, and then building out technology roadmaps. How do you get from A to B to C within the organization? And I got to work with the Lushes of the world, not-for-profits, manufacturing, multi-location senior homes, whole host of different types of businesses. And one day I was actually having a sushi lunch with a colleague at work, and he's like, "Hey, there's a guy that's making $50,000 a month doing SEO, and he's making it passively." And I was like, "Wait, what? What's happening? How is this guy making this much money passively? I'm an engineer and a sales engineer. I don't make anywhere near that kind of money." And so I kind of started going down that rabbit hole, and he had a whole course and all the stuff that I took. And then I very, very quickly started realizing, as I was building websites, Google Ads and SEO, I didn't actually enjoy doing ADR websites on the weekend. It wasn't fun. I didn't enjoy it. And I got paid very well as a sales engineer, so I didn't need to make extra money on the weekend. But I started then working with different marketing agencies to pass work to, and very quickly realizing that the marketing agencies didn't understand the business, and then the business people didn't understand marketing. And so I thought, oh, what if I could just be the connector of all this? I understand the business side, and if I understand the marketing side, I can bring it all together. And as I started doing that, I started realizing very quickly that most marketing agencies, 11% of marketing agencies are good at 1 to 3 things, and then 89% of them are good at nothing. And so I've talked to now over 1,077 different marketing agencies and experts, and I work with a subset of them so that I can match make effectively, so that businesses don't have to go through that pain consistently. And so it's kind of that journey of being the engineer, understanding the business, then understanding marketing. But I always had this connection aspect to me that I wanted to bring people together.
I love that. I love that you said, you were making good money doing something, but then you're I really kind of didn't feel like I was doing what I felt like you loved. And then you started digging more into it. And I think that that's so important, because some people think that just making money is good enough. But then if you're not happy or you're not fulfilled on it, why not explore other avenues? And so I think that that's really, I admire you for that. Was it risky?
It was risky in my head, but on paper it was not risky. I actually really enjoyed being a sales engineer. If I were to go back to full-time work ever, it would be I'd go back to being a sales engineer. I solved complex problems. I made things connect. It was great. But when I was making the decision, I kind of thought about it, and I was like, okay, we have this one path in life, which I know what the outcome looks like, right? I'm an engineer. I'm going to keep moving up. I don't know if I want to be a director, but I'd for sure be a manager at some point. That path I knew, it was the path that I could spot it from a mile away. But then there's this other path where it's oh, my business is taking off. At around 3.5 years, the business started making more money than I was making in my full-time job. And I was like, okay, well, I don't know what this path is. If I go down this path, I have no idea what's going to happen. Who knows what's gonna come out of it, and et cetera, et cetera. And so that's why I took the leap. Was it risky? I mean, leaving your full-time job is always risky, but I had a year of runway, and I already was making the same amount of salary. So like on paper, it wasn't risky, but in my head, it really was. Like I'm an engineer. I like to do things very like securely and stably, and I don't
Hmm.
like risk very much. And so I've actually had to train myself, and I'm consistently training myself to be okay with uncertainty and not knowing the outcomes. And a fun thing about this is most people don't realize that the day that I left my full time job, my wife got accepted into a master's program in the Netherlands. And so 5 months later, I also moved internationally. So we both had left our jobs. I was running the business. We moved internationally to the Netherlands. So I separated all the ties from family and friends and stuff. And so that was a crazy moment because they usually tell you like there's three big changes that will happen in your life. And I did two of the big ones. We didn't have kids, so we didn't have all three, but that was a crazy time for sure. And I grew a lot and I learned a lot about myself. And I learned a lot about just sitting in uncertainty.
Hmm. I like that what you shared about like sitting in that uncertainty because one you kind of went to like left everything and that gives you a lot. You could have a couple of choices. You could be like, okay, this is not for me. Your mind can go into a very negative spot, but or you can learn from that opportunity. And since you, I would say, not being distracted by other things like because you really were in another country, right? You didn't have all the support system. You didn't couldn't just like I could say like I'm a time management coach and I see that sometimes when you could be procrastinate by going out and visiting friends or doing all these other things. You were so focused on, you had the time to be focused and you didn't let your missing everybody, any of those types of things distract you, and you really use that to focus on what you needed to do to build your business. So I like admire you for that because a lot of people can't do that. So when you said you focused on your mindset, like what are the kind of things that did you do?
Yeah, so mindset for me is always a huge thing. I mean, prior to even running the business, I was always already taking like conflict resolution courses, mediation courses. I've read tons and tons of books. I've been doing counseling for over 12 years now, and counseling's done for me proactively. Like it's like I want to know the stuff that I don't know about myself that I don't know, so I can bring awareness to it. Because the first step is always awareness. And then while I was in the Netherlands, I journaled almost every single morning, right? Like you take someone that's like one of my core needs and values is connection and love. Like like I need to be around. That's why I'm a super connector. I'll just connect with people. And so when you take that away, you become very unstable. And so a lot of what I do is every morning I was journaling and I was journaling. I'm like, okay, let me process this. Let me go through it. And it was funny. There's a podcast recently. He's like, what do you do to distract yourself? Like, what do you do when like times are hard? And like, I was like, well, I go for walks, I journal, I go to the gym, play soccer, I'll do yin yoga. And he's like, you don't like watch any like TV or distract yourself with certain things. I'm like, and then it kind of made me reflect for a second. I was like, I don't actually distract myself when I'm feeling like hard things. I actually rather feel the hard things. It's also one of the reasons I don't drink caffeine. I also don't drink. Like I just want my brain and my body to be like, I'm just so aware of what's going on that I just want to, if I'm going through a hard time, I'm going to feel my way through it and get through it. And then I also now, we talked about Tony Robbins quickly before, but like knowing how to change states
Hmm.
becomes super important because there's obviously now I'm starting to realize there's three layers. It's like one, you need to intellectually understand something, the awareness piece. Two is the emotional aspect where it's like, okay, how does that emotionally make me feel? But then three is like, how does this feel in my body and my nervous system? Right. And you can actually change those states. And so to answer your question, there's just a lot of self-reflection and a lot of work to get to a point where I'm like, this is why I feel this way and this is why who I am. And it's okay to feel the fear and uncertainty and kind of like still move forward and dance with it. You're like, okay, well, I'm stressed out and I'm anxious, but I gotta go answer my emails or I gotta go move the next thing or I gotta go do those videos. Like you just have to do the work.
Yeah, you got to put in the reps, right?
Yeah.
I like that. And we talked before we started recording is about like, the risk a little bit, like, like I shared a little bit about me taking a risk and leaving a job that I knew everything about. And I was there almost there for 18 years. I knew I only had two more positions before I was like off the top of the company. And I was like, I felt like I was kind of dying inside, like in a
Mm.
way, because I felt like, okay, there's only two more spots to go. And I felt like I could make an impact more on the world. And was it risky? Yeah, especially right now, because I'm like, my position is totally eliminated right now. But it was, you don't know. And I think if when we play that safe zone, or we like constantly, we don't go outside our shell, we'll never learn what we can achieve. And I loved how you said that, backing up, that you've seen somebody who's making this passive income off of SEO, which I totally can't understand SEO. It's something that's so foreign to me. I will tell you, every day I get an email about somebody saying I'm not utilizing or optimizing my SEO correctly, and they want me to pay $1,000 for them to do something on my website or my YouTube. And so, how did that go? That you thought, how did you understand SEO? And I mean, I know you don't. Do you still do SEO with part of your marketing? Or you now are connecting people to the right person to SEO for them?
Yeah, great question. So when I first started out, like had done a course, and that course kind of gave me like a foundation. Like, here's how you build a website. Here's how you do Google Ads. Here's how you do SEO. But the engineering brain in me was like, this is not enough work. And so I had taken 25-hour Google Ads courses. I'd read textbooks on SEO. So I got a really good understanding of it. And I started doing the work myself. Like, I was doing it for other customers, but like I said, I didn't enjoy it. And so what I started doing is I started talking to experts. Like, I was looking for agencies that were really good at SEO. And when you talk to 40 of them, 50 of them, and ask questions, and you're asking from these experts that are spending, decades doing this stuff, you pick up a lot of knowledge. And so how did I get my marketing degree? It's because I've talked to over 1,000 people and I've asked them questions. And anytime I'm working for a customer, for example, like right now, I'm finding like one of my customers a real HubSpot expert, right? They want either an agency or consultant. I have over 25 people, 25 different companies that want to talk to me around this project. And so I go pick the best. And then from the best, I speak to 5 or 10 of them. And then I find out all the insights. And then by the time we're done, it's like, oh, now I know what to look for in HubSpot SEO. Or no, I know what to look for when I'm hiring for someone in HubSpot, what the different hubs are, how people think about it, what kind of resources there are. And so you get a grasp of the overall landscape. And I've done this for everything from like branding to websites to paid ads to SEO to influencer marketing. And not to mention, I actually do it for myself, right? So how did I get on this podcast? I have a whole outreach program built so that I can get onto podcasts and get my message out to the world, right? I have the same thing for cold email for other things. And then I've done SEO myself. I've done paid ads myself. Like, I test a lot of the stuff, and I do a lot of content, for example, on social. And I'm talking to all of these people in the marketing space to find like what's working, what's not working. My socials aren't huge, but I also know that like on my Instagram and my TikTok that I have to put more effort into the story structure. I need to put more effort into the actual kind of video editing and the hooks and all that different kind of stuff. But like, I have an understanding of what it takes to do things at a very high level, even though I might not currently have the resources to do all the channels I do at a high level. My plan for marketing has always been be in a lot of places at once, and you'll have little trickle in coming from every area. So referrals, cold email, podcasting. And if you have enough of those channels running, it's going to sustainably run a business pretty well. When you want to scale, you got to then find that 1 or 2 channels that you can scale with to get to the 7 figures. And then once again, you got to diversify again, right? Like, once you find the 1 or 2 channels in the 7 figures, now you truly need to build a brand that people know. So as soon as they see your logo or a message or whatever, they really connect with you. So long story short, it's like a lot of learning from experts, but also doing a lot of the work myself and just constantly learning.
No, I love that. I loved how you talked about like you can like you're in all these different layers, like or these socials or whatever. Maybe your LinkedIn, your YouTube, your Instagram, TikTok, all those things. But you're not optimizing every one of them fully, but you're showing up and you're doing the work. But then because then, even reaching out, being on podcasts and all these other things, and then that work can trickle in, and that way you're stable. Whereas then as you go reach to the next level and you start to scale, then you can maybe focusing on one type of social media and really tune that in and then go, I love that because I constantly hear from people like, oh, I need to be doing this on Instagram or this on Facebook or this. You're trying to do all the things. And it's like, one, just show up too. As long as you're showing up, that's still better than not showing up on anything, right? And so, like we talked about, you got to put in the reps, you got to show up, and then as you continue to grow, you get your name out there. People know who you are. They can recognize you from your brand, your logo, or whatever. Then from there, you can consistently go to the next level. And I think that as you're learning to do the work, and then you're optimizing your time to the best that you can, I think that's helpful too. And I love that you have a team too. I mean, that's one of the things. How did you choose your team? And during your entrepreneurial journey, when was it that you finally did get a team?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So when I was working full-time as an engineer, whenever the business would make money, instead of like being like, oh, I should jump over and use more of my time to grow my business, I would actually hire people. So I had like an assistant, I had a designer, I had a developer. I had all these things before I ever left my full-time job. Right. And on my full-time job, I was constantly getting promoted because I was still exceeding at a high level what I was doing. I got promoted 3 years in a row while running my business. And I was able to do that because I started putting things into place, systems in place as I was working and paying people for it. So the way I thought about it, I was like, okay, if I can hire a social media person to do posting for me, and that posting is taking me 5 hours a week, that's 20 hours a week, and I pay someone $600 for that. But then when I'm working with a customer, I charge them $500 an hour for consulting. Essentially I'm trading 1 hour for 20 hours, right?
Mhm.
And so I started basically offloading some of my posting. And so now this person, I would write the content still, but they would post it on my social. So I didn't have to think about that anymore on the weekend. And then it came to the accounting piece where I'm like, okay, I don't want to deal with receipts anymore. So I had an assistant take care of all the receipts. That's another 3 hours, 4 hours saved. And so I just kept looking for these things that were low hanging fruit that I could get rid of at a low price point, so that I could use my time and attention to build relationships, think about strategy, and do all those things. And now I have a team of about 7 people working for me on my own marketing and my own stuff. And there's some are in full-time capacity, some are contractor capacity, but all of it is because I get my time back. If I know I'm spending, most businesses who hire me, they hire me for some consulting on the front end. I charge $500 an hour. So any time I think of like, oh, I can spend $20 to $40 an hour to get this stuff off my plate so I can do more of that work, I'm essentially maximizing my time and my
Mhm.
ability to generate profit and help the people that I want to help.
Yes, yes. I think that's so important. And that's one of the things, like, I think I talked about it earlier. I do time management. I'm a time management coach. I help people. And one of the things I first tell them is we got to do I call it using the Eisenhower matrix. Like, we got to decide on what is the things that only you can do. And like you said, the things that you can do are the consulting. You're the one that you write the content, but having then you decide on what can I delegate and what can I have others do for me. And that's where you said, you went through and had other people posting and doing all those types of things. And then there's stuff that you can do later. Maybe it's not so important in your, like we talked about, maybe not optimizing every single social, you're using all your platforms, but maybe you're not focusing highly on just one. And then there's the other part where it's what's that just needs to be deleted off your plate. And one of the things that you do is you don't go and watch TV and do all of those types of things. You like go out there and you feel and you do, using your emotions, do all the things that you feel are important. You're not procrastinating or distracting yourself. And I think so. I think that that's really important. And have you always been this way, like your whole life, or is this something that you've developed over time?
No, I think I've developed a lot of it over time. Like I've always been someone that just gets stuff done. That's just who I am. Like I'm an activator. I just start things and I go through them. And then growing up, my parents put a lot of grit in me. So like I had to do a lot of stuff that I didn't want to do. And so I think that also drove a lot of my behaviors where it's like, okay, I start things and I'm like, now I gotta finish them. And I had the grit to do a lot of that. But growing up, I played a lot of video games. Like I would like my university years were I would wake up, go to school at like 9 o'clock in the morning. I'd come back home at like 10 o'clock at night. Engineering is not easy. Tell everyone that when you go into it. But then I'd come home at 10 at night and then I played video games till like 3 in the morning. Cause I was like, I just needed a release and I just need to play
Mhm.
games and stuff like that. Obviously I did that for a little bit and I became a very grumpy human being and realized I can't, do that all the time. But yeah, like I've always been someone that just gets stuff done. Now one of the skill sets that I want to learn, and I'm learning, is how to just be like calm and chill, as well, because that's also super important for me. Like my goal isn't to build a super massive business. I honestly don't care. Like for me, it's like, I just want to build a business that's helping a lot of people. And the amount of money that I make right now, I don't need more. I really don't. And most people are like, Behdad, why aren't you scaling your business? Why aren't you going to 7 or 8 figures? Like this is super scalable. I'm like, yeah, I get that, but it's also way more of my time, way more of my energy. I have to manage more of a team. It's way more stress, but I don't want that. And so for me, it's all about the balance. Like I want to be able to go to the gym, play sports, hang out with my wife. I play video games now too. Like I'll just be like, hey, I've worked pretty hard. We've already hit all of our goals for this year. I'm going to chill on Friday and Saturday and just play some video games because that's important to me. So the answer to your question is like, yeah, I've always just like done stuff and I do things. But I also am aware of the fact that like life isn't just about doing things and building more and collecting more. It's also just like enjoying the process and the ride of it.
Mhm. I love that because one of the things is, and I've been dealing with this myself is like you look around your house and things like that. Like money is great, like it's awesome, but then you buy stuff with it, and it's like I'm like, what is the stuff that I'm buying that is just sitting there, or like clutter and things like that, and um, you can't bring some of when we all have an end date, and we can't bring that stuff with us when we leave, and so it's like I think that success is important. Like if you feel you want to be successful, whatever, but happiness is more important too. Like happiness is something like, are you enjoying the time that you have? Are you enjoying the time spending with your wife and all of those things that you're making the time to do? And I love that you're doing the video games again, because I know for like, I mentioned before we started recording that I have a son who loves video games. He's 25 years old, and he works 6 days a week as a mechanic. And when he comes home, and he does a few hours of video games, just to get your mind off of things. And I think that there's nothing wrong with that. There's other things that he could be doing, or you could be doing. You're not going out to the bars, drinking, all those things. And so I think it's important that we have a way that we unwind. And I love how you said that it doesn't, like, people are telling you like, you need to do this, you need to do that. And you're like, I'm happy, I'm content. And
Hmm.
to be in that calm state, and to, look back and reflect on your life and like, hey, I'm doing what I want. And, maybe one day you're going to have a child soon, and you're going to be ready at that calm state. And then also be able to have like a really big influence on that child, because you're not doing the, you know, 60 to 80 hours outside the home, or even in the home, working and grinding constantly. So I think that's really important.
Yeah, no, I love the reflectiveness of it. And for me, it's just like I don't want to live life reactionary. I'd rather know what I want. And it like I say that, but it's like you can't ask that question right. Like, what do I want? And people just answer right away. No, it takes constant reflection to get to it. Like it took me 2.5 years from like my business at some point hit certain numbers, and I was like, I never thought I'd be able to hit these numbers. Like I didn't even imagine these numbers would happen. And the question was like, well, what do I want to be when I grow up? Like, do I want to just hit bigger numbers? And the answer was no, because I've already been in enough business rooms with really high level people. Like I'm talking people that are making 100 million plus a year when they're in their business. And I was like, they don't seem happy. Like they don't seem to know what they want in life. They just been building and building and building and never went like, is this actually what I want to build? Which is why a lot of business owners, after they sell their businesses, get pretty depressed, because they're like, I don't actually know who I am without this business anymore. Right. And for me, that's never been a thing. It's like, okay, well, I built CJam to a certain point, but what do I want next? And for me, it's been like I'm building something called like amplified relationships on my personal branding side. So there's gonna be a lot of content coming out on that really, really soon. And it's just like because I've connected with 3,000 to 5,000 different people, and I've been able to build deep relationships with them, I'm actually wanting to reverse engineer how human connection works for me, and then teach that to other people and be like, here's how you can build really deep connections with someone in less than 10 minutes. Like most people don't realize you can do that because they don't know how they can structure conversations. They don't know themselves well enough so that they can understand other people as deeply. And so that's the stuff that I want to teach. And I'm like, cool, I'm going to go do that. I don't need to wait till my business gets to a certain point. My business is doing what it needs to do. I'm going to consistently keep improving it, but I am going to apply a little bit of my attention and focus on talking about this stuff. And at the end of the day, they might actually work very synergistically together, because people will be like, why is this guy talking about human connection? Oh, he's built a business that has 7 figures going between the businesses and the agencies. He literally built an entire business connecting with people and people together. And now he's talking about human connection. And I think that just makes so much sense. And that's where a lot of joy comes for me, because I'm like, cool, like I'm building out these models, I'm showing things, I'm testing it on people. People are like, whoa, that was really good. I just went to a networking event and it didn't feel like networking. I felt like I was actually connecting with people. I feel amplified. And I was like, oh my God, you just literally used it as a verb because I taught you a new thing. I'm like, that's so cool. I'm like, so there's like all this stuff that kind of happens, and it's just following like the gut and the intuition, and just really asking like, what matters to me moving forward? What do I want to build? And what will I be happy building? And that's really fun.
Yeah. I think that's going to be amazing. I think it's like when you, the way that you're talking, like you're like the human Rolodex, right?
Yeah.
And like for people who don't know what a Rolodex is, it's like back in the day, we'd have like this index cards, or like these, like, and it's just all your contacts of people. And, but you're connecting them in a way and building those relationships, I think is so important. Have you been always somebody, you talked about you interviewing a lot of people. Have you always been a very social person who goes and starts to talk to people and just saying, hey, I want to interview you? You've always been that way?
Yeah, it's not that I want to interview people. Like for me, growing up in high school, I'm looking back now, I realized that like I never fit into one group. I was the guy who would go to all the different groups, and I'd find the people that I liked in each group, and then I would be friends with them. Like it was never like, oh, I needed to be part of the cool kids, or I needed to be part of the guys that did math, or I needed to be part of the artsy kids. It never was that. It was more like I would look in each group and go, I like your values. I like who you are. And I didn't realize until later that that's what I was doing. And I did that all throughout life. Like I never really had one group to fall back on, but it was like I knew a lot of different people from a lot of different places. And even before I became a marketing connector, people were like, Behdad, you know everyone. Like you know all these people. And I'm like, yeah, just because I play soccer, I play sports, I go do this, I try new things. Like I get to meet a lot of cool people. And then I think when I started doing the marketing stuff, like the marketing connection work, I started realizing more and more like, oh, I'm really good at this. Like, I think this is my superpower. Because like most people understand the whole terminology of like leaving money on the table, but a lot of people don't understand like leaving opportunity on the table within relationships. And I find that a lot of people, because they don't know how to connect with people deeply, they don't get certain opportunities that they would have otherwise. Like, for example, and I'm talking opportunities, like I've been invited into like $50,000 rooms that I didn't have to pay $50,000 for. Or I've been invited into masterminds that are like $10,000 a year, and I didn't pay anything to get into them. And it's just like, it's through this process of like building really deep connections with people, and consistently everyone's like, oh, I want to introduce you to the next person, the next person, the next person. And all of a sudden you're almost like 12 or 13 chains down in this relationship line where you meet someone and that one person opens up these doors for you that you never imagined before. And so there's like rooms that I didn't know existed because of the connection piece. So I think I just like realized what my superpower is in the human connection piece and connecting with people deeply and understanding myself. And I'm just like learning to amplify that aspect of it. And now the area that I struggle with is like, I have too many connections now. I have like thousands of connections. And it's like, how do you now keep track and provide energy to that network in a way that feels good to me and it doesn't overload me? And so I'm building a model of like, how do I do that? And then build systems for that model. Because there's very few people in the world that I think have this many connections. And it's like, no one's really constructed a model that works at scale, if that makes sense.
Oh, yeah. I think that's awesome. I think wow, what a blessing to figure out what your superpower is and to use it to be put into different rooms that you'd never probably ever imagine you'd be into. And
Yeah.
then now you're looking like, okay, what's the next thing and how can I make this so that it to be a better, like to have over 1,000 plus connections. And now you're like, hey, I need to make this so it's easier to be manageable and to develop that too. I
Yeah.
love the way that your brain works.
Thank you. Thanks. I like it too. It thinks too much sometimes, but it's like it's part of the process, and it's like it's just enjoying the process of like learning and trying new things. And if you asked me many years ago, like this whole starting this amplified relationship things and building up a personal brand, like in the past, I would probably have been afraid of it. I'd be like, oh, what if it fails? What if, like even now I ask, but the question is said differently.
Mhm.
It's like, what if it fails? Yeah, cool, but it's what I want to do. So let's see what happens. Like, what's the worst case scenario? I just learned a bunch of new things, and at the end of the day, like I'll still be fine. Like,
Mhm.
so I'm in a very like privileged and cool position to just kind of like test things, try things, and see what I can bring to the world in a different way.
And do you still journal?
I do, but less. A lot of my journaling is because I do a lot of social content.
Mhm.
So every 2 weeks, I have 10 pieces of social content. And that actually is a part of my journaling and reflecting. Not to mention that I have calls with a lot of friends that also are deep thinkers. So we'll have like an hour call and then I'm just like processing live with them. So the journaling is like, it's like I actually journaled last night, funny enough, on something, but it all depends on when it makes sense. And then there's other ways for me to process. Plus, I see a counselor once a month to like deprocess and talk about things. So I have a lot of systems in place to do a lot of reflection, which allows me to get better ideas, allows me to understand myself, understand how I'm feeling, and it requires less of me journaling in that case.
Yeah, I think that, that's that you have an outlet for it. Like you don't just maybe if you're not just journaling, there's other outlets that you have for it. But I think that one of the things that's really important is that people don't even think about what they need to reflect on, or they don't even reflect and they keep it all like, buried in, and then, it suppresses them from like really figuring out like what their superpowers are, or they, like you said earlier, a billionaire could be like sell their business and they become depressed because they've never had any reflective time, or they're seeking stuff that should, a dollar or a goal, and they don't really have happiness. So I love that you're using other avenues for the reflective, and I think that finding a way to even get that out is really amazing, because most people don't even realize that they are, they need to reflect or have that, person to vent to, or a counselor, or, therapy, whatever it is, even like some type of outlet. That's what I'm trying to, some type of outlet. I think that's important.
It's so important. And like even outside of just like yourself, like look, like if you spend the time to understand who you are as a person, which is you have to have reflection. Why did that bother me? Why did that make me angry? Why do I want to do this? Why am I not enjoying this thing? Like asking those questions and really reflecting on like who you are and understanding, oh, that came from this like childhood experience, or that came because of X happened, or this is bothering me because I don't like this about myself, or like this is the same thing I have. When you understand yourself more deeply, the cool part is you get to understand other people more deeply. And so when you're talking to people, you can ask them very insightful questions like, why did you make that happen? Where did that come from? And you start noticing in people like, oh, he asked that question the right way because you've already gone through the process. And the cool part about that is when you connect self to self with people, like there's like, let's say you have buddies, right? Like you have guy friends or girlfriends, and you connect on, let's say, maybe sports, or you connect on, the new fashion that happened or the celebrities or whatever. I consider a lot of these like secondary nodes, like they're like secondary areas of interest that you're building relationships on. But when you can connect with someone's self, who they are, their values, their belief, what they want in life, what scares them, what doesn't scare them, who they are, who they aren't, you build the most deepest connections there, right? Mm-hmm. And most of us, like when we're growing up, we have childhood friends that we've known for a long time. Why are we so connected with them? It's because we know their values, we know who they are. So we can not talk to them for a year and come back and it'll just start from scratch because you built on the most fundamental layer, right? But if you had built a relationship on, let's just say, business, and no longer is that person running a business anymore, now you've lost that connection with that person. There's no reconnecting on it. They might be able to understand a little bit about what you're doing, but the topics are going to change. You're going to connect on different things. Mm-hmm. And so that's why I think it's so important to, one, understand who you are, because you're going to understand other people and who they are. And when you can connect deeply with people, that's where like the most beautiful relationships end up coming out, and the most vulnerability and trust in being seen, because I think people just want to be seen for who they are.
Yeah. I think that's amazing. I was thinking as you were talking, like pictures of my friends flashed through my mind, and I told, we talked a little bit before we started recording, like you went to the Tony Robbins event, and I had another event that I was at, and just like the conversations that I had with some of the wives that at this event is like we connected at such a deep level because we're not just because our husbands are doing this activity. We connected. We became those. Like they're like some of my closest friends because of the deeper connections that we were able to make. And it's not about, that our husbands anymore. It's like we share things. Like I'll see a quote, I'll think of one of my friends, and like it's things like that. You develop that deeper connection. I think that's so important, and to have those friends that are there for you or people that you can talk to is so important. And so I loved how you explained it all, because I think it's like it's something a way the human connection, a way that I didn't even think about it until I was listening to the way you talked. So thank you.
Yeah, no worries. And I love how you reflect, because like the Tony Robbins environment is like the best example. Like, what are you sharing there? You're sharing what you're afraid of. You're sharing your beliefs. Like, it's your core stuff. And you're like, cool. Like, you and I have the same core belief. Like, we're tied. Like, that's not going to shift. You know what I mean? Like, and anyone that's there shares a value for growth. Like, people are at Tony Robbins either because they were pulled there, but even deep internally, they were pulled there, but they also accepted it because they either want some sort of growth. It could be the growth with the relationship with the person that they have, or it's something internally for themselves. But everyone else there is for growth. And so you all share that same value, and which is a core need too, right? So you build these like really deep relationships around growth, and then you keep those people, which is so beautiful. It gets me super excited because it's the more the world gets connected, the more people are connected with the people around them and their deeper relationships, they're just going to be happier. They have people to talk to. They're not going to have to resort to things or be quiet or be alone, which a lot of people fear at the end of the day.
Yeah. I love that. Well, I love all the things that you're sharing about, and all the things. One of the things is, if somebody was wanting to connect with you or be a part of, like, how do they get in touch? What is your marketing program? I know you do your connection, but what is the ways that they could follow you and connect with you?
Yeah. So the best ways is my website, which is like www.cjammarketing.com. That's the business part of what I do, where I connect businesses to the right marketing agencies. So in case they need branding work or websites or development or ads or SEO, whatever it is in marketing, like I have the connections for it. That's where I support there. If you're looking to like listen to more of my like thought leadership and content, LinkedIn, which is underneath my full name, Behdad Jamshidi. And then I have an Instagram that I'm doing both for the business and on the personal branding side around human connection, and then also on the marketing connection side. So you can find me in a whole host of different places on the internet.
Oh, that's awesome. I'll make sure that I have all your links in the show notes so people can connect with you, because I think it's, it's so important. I love that when my listeners are able to connect and follow the guests that I have on here. But as we wrap up, there's one thing I always like to ask my guest, is what is one thing, a word, a phrase, a book, or some type of action that my listeners can start to do today in order to help them refine and shine to the person that they should be?
Sounds good. I got two because I like to break rules, and it's two books. The first book that I really, really love is called Chasing Daylight. I don't think a lot of people have read it, but it just puts life into a whole perspective. Short story of it is, for me, it was really impactful because it was the story of a KPMG CEO who was in his 50s. He thought he had a lot of life to live. And then one day he was told he has 3 brain tumors and 4 months left to live. And between that time, he wrote a book. And so it's a CEO's perspective on how he approached life and death. And it's such an amazing book because it really makes you value time, and how important it is and the connections you have around yourself. And the last one, this book I absolutely love. It's a fiction book. It's called The Midnight Library. And it's a book that shows basically someone that was not very happy with their life. In the very beginning of the book, they actually commit suicide, but they end up in the middle of life and death in a coma. And in this Midnight Library, there's a whole wall of infinite amount of books. And each book, every time she made a decision in life, a new book was created for the life path that book would run. And so she gets to go and live each life that she can take out a regret and go live that life. And it's just such a beautiful book showing you like all the different ways your life could actually go, but you only get one path in this one. And it just gives you this like calmness of like, I only get to live one out of an infinite amount of lives, and I'm just going to choose the best one for this lifetime. And it's a really cool book that also puts life into perspective again.
Oh, I'm gonna have to read. I'm gonna order both of those books right now.
Cool.
I love to read, and like sometimes my husband's like, "Oh my God, another book," and I'm like, "You don't understand," because it's such a to me, it's a way to, like we talked about, a calming or, a way to help us not stress. And to me, it's like, as I read, it helps me think about life a little differently, or like, what am I working on? What do I need? And I may read several books at each at a different time, but have several books I'm reading all at once, just because it's like, I started reading when I was 3. I used to get in trouble. Side story. I used to get in trouble so much as a kid. I was always in the corner, because that was the form of punishment. And so my mom always, I got to the point where it's like, can I read a book in there? And she don't know how to read. I learned how to read at 3. That's how bad I was in trouble all the time.
Oh my gosh, that's such an interesting story. And I love the fact that you love to read multiple books at once. Like I'm very similar. Like I'll have a book for like different things. And I'm like, what am I feeling right now? Do I want to learn something? Do I want to be like in an adventure? What do I want? And so I usually will have like 2 or 3 books going at the same time too.
Yeah. So I'm not the only one. Thank you so
No.
much, because I finally found somebody who's just like that with me, just like
Yeah.
that. So, well, thank you so much. I appreciate all the things that you shared, and I just can't wait for my guests to connect with you and use your resources. And I just want to say again, thank you so much. I
Thank you
can't
so
wait
much
to
for
see
that.
what comes next.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And I'm happy to keep connecting with you over LinkedIn or whatever social channels you use. And I love being on.